today we are talking to the legendary, the best comedian ever, and definitely the most humble, Mr. Papp Johnson. Welcome, Papp.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me. It is I, the legend, Papp Johnson.
Hey, hey, wow, this is like the honorary experience for me. You know, you're my first legend. So I'm like over the moon over here. So with that, Pat, before I start asking my questions, is there anything that you would like to share with the listeners about yourself?
I am, in fact, a legend. If you don't know yet, you will know at some point in time in your life. I'm glad that I could be your first legend on this podcast. I'll get you some more. That's about it. That's about it.
Okay. Pat, what is your favorite song, either of all time or right now, and why?
Uh, of all time, it's got to be Starship. That's me and my lady song. I love to sing. I don't have a great singing voice, but I got a good speaking voice, so I can hit some of those notes. Like you are. That's where I get you at. Little pockets I can really harmonize. So it's another like singy song. I like to sing. I like singing. I like the notes and Mariah Carey when she bring them inflections and stuff. When you see them carry a note, you be like, oh, they sang it. So
Is there anything in terms of the lyrics?
Starship, oh man, that's seduction right there. That is pure seduction because he's talking about his lady, how like this one person is just like his everything, and like he just wants to be with her, and it's like you my starship, like you take me to another place, another galaxy, and that's what he looks forward to at night is to see her. So if you could play that and sing that to your lady while you do a little slow dance, I mean you should be good. You should be good, but I don't know y'all. Y'all might not be legends.
That's true. Everybody can't be well, you know what? I take that back. We can all be a legend in something very particular to us. So, to the legends of
Yeah.
the world. So, tell me about a favorite childhood memory.
I used to jump a creek by my house. Me and my cousin, we all lived in the same house, and we would go to this park that was like a few blocks down the street. And our moms would always be like, "Y'all go to the park, y'all play basketball. That's it." But there was a creek, and there was like a cliff. It was like a cliff, and then like a fake river, but it was like a hood river. So it was like shopping carts, and
Oh,
all types of unmentionables in there. And it was like, so it was always a challenge. Like, okay, if you could jump off of here over to the actual other place that's dry, the land that's dry, then you the man. So that's what we would challenge each other all day, every day. And of course, if you fell in the creek, you was gonna get a whooping. So it was also like the thrill of that. We might have been 8 or 9.
yeah.
Like yeah, it was. And one time somebody fell in the creek and we all got one. And it was like, man, we was kids. We was like, man, why you fall? Like, why you fall in the creek? All you had to do was make it.
And what I love, because this is that old school kind of discipline, it's like not just the one who fell, but all y'all for getting him involved in the first place.
Yeah, because it was like, of course he ain't just go jump the creek by himself. And we was like, man, we was playing basketball. I mean, he went off, so he told us we went to the bathroom. And
They weren't
it
buying
didn't
it.
work. It didn't work. It didn't work.
Okay. These friends that you played basketball with, were they set of friends that you went through school with, and are you guys still close?
Those particular people, no. As I got older, I started going to a school across town, so
Was
it
that
was all
busing or
friends.
something else?
It was I would say it's a blessing and a curse. I think there's a lot of duality in that, trying to achieve a certain status in society. I think it's good to want to give your children a better education and that you believe that you got, but at the same time, I think it also was. I take it as a little bit of a negative because the way the message was perceived was to, in my mind, make me feel like the people that I actually was around and like lived around were less than. And I think that was at times very negative on my psyche because it made me feel like, yo, I come from these people, like these are my people. And so when I went to the other school, I would always feel like, kind of less than, and always like kind of questioning myself, do I belong here? Even though I excelled, but it was still like, there were things like just even after school, like, okay, we can go play basketball, but at some point in time, I'm going to have to make a journey back to the dangerous side of town. And I couldn't really talk to anybody about that because I'm not supposed to be here. So I can't let you in on my life. So I'm actually living a lie in a sense. And I have nobody to talk to and be like, hey man, I'm actually scared for my life every time I go home. Like it's real great at school in these hours, but after that, it's like my mind is turned to like, all right, get prepared. Like if something happens, we gonna have to do something that the life you were just living doesn't really afford you. So
Yeah, I don't think that's talked about a lot. That it can be for some living a dual life, and then
yeah,
what is that to navigate those two worlds?
yeah. Because
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, if you don't go here, you would have been here with all these people who doing this and that. And it's like, but why are we not trying to help these people out? Because these are people who are closer to us instead of being like, separate yourself from them and go over here. And it's like, and not think about how that plays on your mental day in and day out. Like even having to get up and make that track and, put on this face and then but I understand the positives of it. I'm more cultured because of it, and I feel like I was around a lot of different ethnic groups and people, and I got to see a more worldly aspect of the city I'm from. But I still do think about that a lot because I'm like, even the black people that I grew up with, were friends with, it's like they also had similar struggles, but they couldn't understand how scared I was to go home every day. Every day that was like, okay, this is my life is on the line. I literally had to,
Where are you from again?
Deep East Oakland.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you know Oakland, it's like Oakland is North Oakland, West Oakland, East Oakland, and then there's Deep East Oakland. And that's, so you could imagine it's like anytime they be like, you're deep in there. It's like, okay.
I got that. Okay. Can you say a little bit more about what you were navigating?
In Oakland, they have like blocks. So it's not necessarily like a gang like the Bloods or the Crips. It's just like, oh, this block is, like it's family. Like we grew up on this block. So because that's how sparse and the message is in Deep East Oakland is like, yo, don't everybody is coming after you. Everybody wants something for you. So we've already got this like heightened sense of paranoia with each other. So it's like, yo, if I gotta walk 6 blocks to my house from the BART station or the train station, uh, that is a scary time, you know?
What might happen?
You could get robbed, you could get killed, all sorts of things. I could get stopped by the police, and we know how that usually turns out. So it's just like there's so many things that could happen, and it's like that plays in your mind every day when you go home and you're around the people that you literally live around. And that was like that felt like poison. For a long time, I grew up fearing these people, and for a long time, it took me a long time to understand like, yo, these people are trying to achieve the same things that my mom is trying to get me to achieve. It's just in a different way. And
Mm-hmm.
without some understanding and trying to learn those people's struggle, then yeah, I will be in a terrible place, mentally with my own people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. Is there anything else you want to add before I go to the next question?
Uh, I think that's probably why I'm so happy now, and grew up with a happy mindset, or just be positive, because it's like I could be down about all these things, but it's like I do have the opportunity to go learn and bring that to whoever I talk to back in the hood, even share that knowledge with my mom. who didn't get that education that I believe she wanted to. So I understand the positives, but there are some negatives, and I think we should talk about that more than we do.
The vast majority of these early interviews that I'm doing are with people who are college educated, or at least were college ready. And you're the first one to bring up this idea of that it was just okay to leave some people behind. Like I grew up I went to high school in the early 80s and busing was, still around. And I never, this conversation is really the first time that I'm really appreciating the extent to which it's been okay to save a few for the good of, we're going to save a few and that's the best we can do. And we just kind of swallowed that rather than looking at it and going, well, wait, why just a few? Why aren't we doing what we need to do in all schools? And I know it comes up. I'm not saying no one ever talks about it, but there
Yeah.
is a cultural acceptance that, well, that's just kind of how it is right now. So thank you for that. So I asked this question in two parts. It's about accomplishments. And the first part is about an accomplishment that matters to you personally. And then the second part is what accomplishment is the one that other people are like, whoa, what? You did what? So why don't you start with the one that matters to you most personally?
The one that matters to me personally is becoming a comedian. I believe that was the hardest thing to do in my life because I had to, for the first time, really tell my mom, like, hey, I have to do this for me because I was going to school. I was trying to give her the degree that she wanted and, the son that she had dreamed about when she gave birth. And, to burst that bubble and have that hard conversation with my mom was, I believe, a breakthrough for me and her because it was the first time I was like, hey, Ma, I really do love you, but I ain't going back to school. I ain't going back to school, and I'm gonna do this comedy thing, and I know you're gonna question it, and you gonna be asking me to get a job and this and that, but I promise you, at the end of the day, you will be proud of the things that I do in this game, and you will be proud that I made this decision and decided to stand on my own. And I'm to this day we have a great relationship. I believe because of
I love that. I love that. Yeah, just standing up for your dream in the face of someone else's dream and choosing
that. Yeah.
your own.
And that's very hard because you as black people we got an affinity for our mom and we want to make them proud and we understand all the hardships they went through to provide for us and get us to this point. And we feel that pressure to give them the things that they want, and sometimes that puts our lives and our wants on a back burner, which can cause conflict. So I'm so happy that I took that step and I took that leap and it worked out.
Yeah, evidently I didn't know how to have that conversation right because for me it was when I told my mom I was majoring in sociology and not industrial engineering. And I swear I was in my 30s when she was still like low key drop little hints like, oh, so and so's an engineer. I was like, what are you, this is over. It's done. I'm a teacher, baby. I'm a teacher. That's it. And so I hear you. It can be tough because there's a lot of pressure on those of us who have that opportunity, whatever that
Yeah,
opportunity is, to seize it, to be the example, to be the best for our group, our race, our culture, right?
yeah,
And there's almost a sense of it's more important to sacrifice self to uplift the race if you can at times. Like that is a background conversation in our community. And
yeah.
yeah, would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just like, yo, I don't care what you. And I have a Nigerian girlfriend right now, and I'm seeing how they're like, nah, you gotta go to college. you got it. Like, one degree ain't good enough. It's like you got to do these things. It's like at no point in time are they asking what's in your heart, and so that that it creates a division. But it's like you know what your parents and those people, your ancestors and people did to even put you in a position to have those opportunities. So it's like, and old black people will let you know, like, hey, you're not doing it, you're wasting your time, you need to. And it's like, come on, man, like this, we is not 1910 no more. Stop hitting me with those same thoughts and traditions. So
Yeah.
uh it's very hard to be bold, because you I feel at times we feel so alone that we, like, you definitely don't want to lose the support of your parents, whether it's your mom or your dad, because then you real feel very alone. So it's like you try to do these things to please them, and because you're kind of scared, like, will they still support me and rock with me? Because we've seen, particularly in cancel culture and in the black community, if you mess up, they cut you off, like it. And that's what I feel like keeps us pigeonholed, is that we don't give ourselves enough wiggle room to make mistakes and learn and grow. It's just
Mm.
a constant, like, oh, you didn't get it done, you suck. It's like damn, man, like damn.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm watching the Marvel movies right now. It took them like at least 6 movies to actually learn how to make a good one. So
Right? I was talking to my cousin after the second episode of the podcast dropped, and this young man is all of 25, but he listens to a lot of stuff, so he's trying to hit me up and tell me some stuff, and I'm like, because I'm double his age, so I'm like, what are you gonna tell me? But also, I was getting a little defensive, real talk, and then he finally said, you didn't really think you were gonna be great on your first interview, did you? And I was like, uh, kinda.
yeah, that's the pressure we put on ourselves. That it's either it's greatness or it don't mean shit, and that's mentally, like, that's tough, because that puts a lot of people in a position where you don't want to try because you don't want to fail, because failure is the end. And it's particularly in business and things of that nature. Tell me, like, yo, like, it's okay to not get it right the first time. A lot of businesses don't get it right the first time. You have to, it's trial and error. And the only way to really sharpen your tools is to use them and understand that, oh, okay, it don't work necessarily in this situation. It could work in this, but I'm gonna have to modify some things.
Yeah. So what about the accomplishment that seems to impress others?
I've done a few commercials, made some dollars in acting. So people are always hyped when they see me on television. But it's like, how much you work for that. So it does feel very good when you see your work recognized. And I know that it makes my mom's heart, brings us so much joy to brag about, like, what I'm doing, and be like, he on television, look at my son.
Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. What is a favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or your favorite
My favorite quote is one I think I made up myself, but I'm
book?
pretty
Okay,
sure other people
that
is
counts. That counts.
what would a real nigga do?
Uh-huh.
So whenever I'm like faced with an obstacle or something, I feel like in doubt, or it'd be like, oh, I don't have this to do this. It's like, I ask, what would a real nigga do? You will find a way. Find a way. Because it's true. You get faced with stuff, you be like, man, and like, man, what would a real nigga do? Okay, okay. Compose myself. Figure out a way. Because, I'm like, yo, I know black people invented a lot of things, particularly in slavery. So it was like,
Mhm.
someone had to be like, man, I could be very frustrated about this, or I could
Yeah,
really, like, dig deep in my heart and my soul and figure this out to
yeah.
make any type of the situation I have better.
Mhm.
So that's what I really lean on. and it keeps me motivated. That and my therapist told me this one day in therapy. I was very upset. I was going off about how I was like mad at everybody and this and that. And I was like, man, they got me fucked up. And he's like, no, no, you got you fucked up. And that plays in my head all the time when I'm upset with stuff. It's like, okay, I got me fucked up. Like I can control myself and I can get out of this situation if I choose to, or I can just, bury my head in the sand and keep going further into some dumb shit. If I told you books that I like, they would all be very, very elementary.
Okay, tell me one.
I love the book The Witches by Roald Dahl. I love Roald Dahl. But I read this one book. It was an anthology from the time slavery started up until currently. And it's just like excerpts from different Black people throughout the times. And I really enjoyed it because it was at the time, I think there was I think that was like when Black Lives Matter first started. And it was really eye opening to read the things that they were going through and to know that I had those same feelings today. I was like, damn, it has gotten better, but a lot of the things have just been glossed over, rebranded. So I advise every Black person I know to read this book.
The Story of Us. Yeah, you're the second person to bring that book up in interviews. And yeah, I'm looking forward to when I have some time to read that. What is a significant conversation, person, or event in your life?
I would say meeting my girlfriend and the conversations we have. I cherish them. I truly do cherish them. Before her, it wasn't like I was just dealing with her and having a real like having the intimacy to the point where we have conversations about our upbringing, how we feel about things, and learning about how Black women or how she feels as a Black woman and how a lot of her friends feel as Black women pertaining to like dating Black men and feeling beautiful and feeling wanted and valued. I think that really has changed me and opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was ignorant to
Can you
and
give me
just
an example?
oblivious. Just how how hopeless I think I hear a lot of Black women feel about like finding a Black man or even love because they feel they're at the bottom of the totem pole in a lot of senses. Like the parts that make them whole or their aesthetics of beauty are valued on other races more than they're valued on Black women. So when you see Black men trying to go get a Latin woman or a white woman with a big ass or big lips, yet the Black woman is told that her skin it makes her ugly or she needs to lose weight or whatever. It's like those type of things. It's like I never really thought how toxic that was, like just in conversation, just being like, oh yeah, man, uh Iggy Azalea or Amber Rose. Like I never really understood how those images were hurting her. I can be with a Black man, but I also feel like if he makes it, he's going to leave me for a white woman, or I'm gonna just have to, be fetishized by a white man if I get into a relationship with a white man. It's kind of like, and then that messes with your mind about even how you view Black men. So how you interact with them is different because it's like you come into a situation believing that this person doesn't really want you. They're just going to, use and abuse you. They're not going to show you the love that they would show someone else. Basically understanding like, yo, we got to speak up more for Black women because a lot of times when things happen to them, it is not taken seriously. Their concerns and needs aren't really met like anybody else's on any level. So that is, I think it's made me a little bit of a better person. I was already pretty good, but
That's great.
I love that. I love that we have conversations.
How long have you guys been together?
7 years now.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. Because I'm raised by, I was raised by 5, 6 women, black women, and it's like I'm like, oh, I understand black women, but it's like, no, I didn't. I knew them, but I didn't understand their plight and what they were going through, and so I'm very thankful for that.
And she is definitely a blessed woman to have you appreciate her the way you do and love her.
Oh yeah, I'll make sure she tells me that she knows that.
I don't doubt it. I do not doubt it. What's a moment, we're kind of transitioning here. What is a moment that or event that highlights your experience of being a Black man in America?
Every day, every day. I have a joke about it. I am super tall. I'm like 6'6", 6'7". Every day of my life, someone asks me, "Do I play basketball?" Like since I was a child till yesterday, till today, someone asked me about basketball. Do I play basketball? They're amazed by my height. And my joke is funny, but it's also I understand it's a microaggression, and my girlfriend now understands that it's a microaggression because the first assumption is that, oh, a black tall man only plays basketball. You know, I've been around tall white men and they don't ask them those questions. They don't, and it's never. It's just a observation of, oh, this is what is assigned to you. It's, there's never a thought like, oh, I could, you know, be an accountant or I could be an engineer. It's got to be basketball or bust. And if you don't play basketball, what happened? So that's
Yeah.
a constant reminder because I'm like, I've never seen any person as a tall white man that they gotta play basketball.
hmm I'm just curious about this. Does that question come up regardless of race, or is it mostly a question that's asked by white or European Americans?
No, it's definitely everybody because black people for sure, because that's what they've been programmed to believe. Like, oh, you gotta go play ball to be, you know, successful or anybody. Yeah, it's just ingrained in us, and I wish we could look at each other as, you know, more than what the boxes say we can be.
The young cousin that I talked about earlier in this interview, he's, I think, 6'6" now. And it wasn't until I was with him all the time as he got taller and taller and taller and kept hearing people say that and seeing how irritated he got. You know what I mean? Like he wouldn't be
Yeah,
like, you know, he wouldn't come out and say, but you could just see it. I know him, so I could see in his countenance that he was just kind of like, oh, here we go again. That is really when I became aware of just how common that question is when you are a
yeah.
tall Black man. Yeah.
I would implore you to ask him, does that make him feel less than? Because if
The
people
good
tell you
news,
that's what you're supposed to
yeah.
be, it's like, and you're not that, it kind of, you know.
Have you had any interactions with law enforcement?
Yeah, yeah. I try to keep it as quick as possible. I'm not gonna say I don't like law enforcement. I was technically a policeman on the low.
Really?
Yeah, I used to be a meter maid in Oakland. And that's technically a part of the police force, and you got it.
So when you've interacted with the police, what is that? Is it generally, you know, you just get a ticket and then it's cool, or
The last time I was stopped by the police, I was coming home from a comedy show. I think I was just at a comedy club, and I parked my car like a block away. It was like 3 a.m. probably. There was no cars on the street, so I just walked in the middle of the street, across the street to the street that my apartment's on. And literally, when I got on the other side of the street, an unmarked car pulls around the corner, zooms up on me, and 4 cops with vests jump out the car, guns, and was like, "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" what are you doing on this block? And I'm like, I'm literally going home. Like, where you live? I'm like, I live 2 buildings down. I'm going home. The next question he asked me was, is that a marijuana leaf on your neck? And I literally have a tattoo of a heart that says mom with angel wings on my neck that I got with my mom. I was like, yeah, what does that have to do with anything? He was like, oh, we're looking for people. And I was like, all right, man. Now can I go home? And he was like, oh, you got an attitude. Why you got an attitude with us? We just doing our job. And I tell this to every police officer. I don't like guns. I don't like people with guns. And he was like, I'm a police officer. You shouldn't be worried about me. I was like, you have a gun and I don't. So therefore you are a threat. Do you not hear me when I say I don't like people with guns? And then he really didn't have anything after that. He was like, well, you shouldn't be jaywalking. I was like, okay, well, I didn't think it took 4 people with guns to prevent jaywalking, but this is also probably why I don't like people with guns. They hopped back in the car and zoomed off. 2 buildings away from my house for jaywalking. You know, it could have turned out differently, but I just had to let him know, like, but I'm sure, as they say, I'm sure there's good cops out there. So, you know.
So she could be a friend, a sister, a mother, a lover. If America was a woman, what would you say to her?
You in danger, girl. That's what I would say. I was like, you in danger. You in danger. You need rehab. Uh, get your shit together. Uh, you're just off. I mean, but in reality, it's not. In reality, America is doing exactly what she was built to do, and that is the hard part. That is I think a hard conversation to have. We are in a situation where we want these things, but those things literally weren't designed for us or promised to us. We can read that literature, but ask yourself, ain't no black hand signatures on that Constitution. The machine, when people be like, oh, politics and the government ain't working how it's supposed to, it's like, it is working how it's supposed to. America is built off business economy. Last time I checked, the Civil War was about business. Last time I checked, the American Revolution was about business. They tell you about the Boston Tea Party, and they act like it was because they didn't want to, they wanted rights and all this. But the truth is, they didn't want to pay extra for that tea. That is a business move. John Hancock was the richest man in Boston. He was the man that led the Boston Tea Party. He was the one throw that shit in the ocean. So it's business. And I would just tell black people to understand that business is a world thing. It ain't just America. We are the biggest export that America has. And I only learned that because I was learning about Korea and Japan and Tokyo because I was trying to go there for the Olympics to go watch and support. And I found out that K-pop is like their biggest export that Korea has. So I'm like, so they manufacturing music in these boy bands literally to support their economy in their country and their way of life. And then I thought about it, I was like, well, damn, the NBA, NFL generates billions, music generates billions, all the entertainment that America pumps out. And I'm like, that's all really us. And that's really why they kind of like, nah, man, Black Lives can't matter because we got to get this money. If Black Lives start mattering, then we got to pay y'all more. That take away from our pockets. We can't run on the way we want to. That's why they trying to reopen stuff because they like, hey, brother, the projections ain't where they supposed to be no more. It's always business.
Yeah, that's some knowledge you're dropping right there. That's really good. That's really good. So let's talk about love. What is love to you?
Love is honesty in moments. It's just moments because we can love people at certain times and we can hate them at other times. Love, I think at times people use love to try to handcuff you. and force you into things and doing things and not being your authentic self. But true love is loving the person that they are, and understanding, mistakes will happen. There's going to be positives and negatives and moments in time. It's like it ain't nothing lasts forever. So just because I love you doesn't mean I have to suffer with you or because of it. It's just we're gonna share these moments and enjoy it, because that's how I believe it grows, is not really concerning yourself with all the other rigmarole. Like these moments, I love these having conversations. This is great, and you'll be able to look back and be like, oh man, I love that time. But 2 years later, you might be like, man, I hate that nigga back. I love that conversation we had, but I hate him. And that's fine. That is fine, because that's full. That's a full person.
Right.
So
I hear you. Is there anything
what's love
about
to
you?
you?
Oh, sucky now, trying to turn the tables. Just remember, I'm in charge of the edit. But that's a good question. Love is acceptance. And it's not just acceptance. It's it's really allowing a person to go through what they need to go through. And it's all good, which doesn't mean that we don't. I have a family member that has a mental illness, and there was wanting it to go better, like when things got real crazy, it was like, I want that to be better. And then I had to get to a point where I was like, okay, but she has to hit her bottom to
Yeah.
get and accept the help. And we don't often talk about acceptance that way. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I accept that you're a wonderful guy. I accept, but it's like, no, it's accepting the whole person and their choices. That don't mean I like it.
Yeah.
I don't have to like it to accept it. But I can still love you so much that I am fully allowing you to be the human being that you are, because in the end, that's really all we are. We are not angels. If we were angels, this world would look different. So I got evidence that we are not angels. We're human. And so since we're human, we're going to do some things that are not cool. And we're going to do some beautiful, wonderful things. And all of it is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's what's up. It is a wonderful life.
Is there anything about you that we haven't covered that challenges the stereotype of what it is to be a Black man in America?
Conversations. I believe conversations are key. I don't think we talk enough to each other about real things, about ourselves. I think it's easy to talk about things that are going on in the world. I think it's easy to talk about things we see in television and celebrity figures. But I feel as a whole, Black people is it repressed? We hold a lot of things inside. A term I feel we use too much is I'm gonna push through it, or I'm gonna get over. I'm gonna put this to the side, and it's like no, because when you put stuff to the side, it's still on the side. It don't go away. It don't go away, and I think we have some work to just learn how to deal with our traumas and trust each other a lot more. I think our trust is broken right now. A lot of the elements that cause us to have distrust, but now is the time to really start focusing on solutions and building actual trust up, instead of just constantly regurgitating the things that we know. And I know we're moving towards that. I try to tell everybody that's Black, hey man, you got to realize that we are the youngest ethnicity on this planet right now, the African American.
Gotcha.
So us constantly comparing ourselves to everybody else it's damaging to us, because we want to be there, but it's like, do you realize that these white people that run America literally were white people that were in Europe getting money. Like, I don't know if you know, but getting a boat ride to another land ain't cheap. They make it say, oh, they were immigrants, and it's like, nah, man, you still don't have to have 20 racks to to get on a boat. I watched the movie Titanic. Jack had to sneak on that. He ain't had no ticket. You wouldn't expect a toddler to know how to fix a car. So why are we constantly asking ourselves to fix all the world's problems and all our problems right now when it's like, yo, we still got a lot of development to do internally. And I'm like, we still making a lot of fucking movement. We already had a president. We got a few billionaires, even though I don't know how much we could trust them, but that's something I got to work on and just hope that they doing the best that they can. But
I know that when the enslaved were brought, they were from a variety of tribes. They didn't all speak the same language. And then when they got here, they were banned from speaking those languages. And so there's the practicing of their culture, all that ancient knowledge is, they've got to do the best they can to pass what little they can when they can't use the language in which they learned it, you know?
yeah,
So that has a stripping away effect of actual knowledge when you can't language it, right? And then you
yeah,
can't communicate it if the other people on this plantation don't share the tribe that you came from and all of that, right? So what I'm saying is you've got 6 generations, maybe 7, and then those that are even newer who are really creating a culture newly. This is a
yeah,
brand new culture that was not able to be built on a prior culture. That prior culture was stripped. I love what you said about this being a young ethnic group. We are literally a creation of America, right?
yeah,
Of this land, this place, and yet we act as if, and are taught to act as if, we are standing on the same foundation.
yeah. You're not. It's like, okay, yeah. It's like we all on ice, but we on thin ice.
Well
And
said.
we getting there. We getting there.
Yeah, we are. We are. We are.
And it ain't even slowly. It's
It's pretty
compared to
phenomenal when you think about it.
everybody else. Yeah, it's real rapid.
Ah, what, if anything, as we conclude this conversation, what, if anything, are you taking away from the conversation, or did you get out of the conversation?
I take away that this is beautiful. This is something I believe is needed and will be valued for years to come. So I'm very happy to be a part of this. I believe once we start having these dialogues, we'll grow and in a way that's going to be gremlin-like.
Be what like?
Gremlin-like.
Okay.
And I believe that's what's scary for the powers that be. They have this notion. Well, they have an understanding. And I think I was talking to my girl about this, and I was like, we were talking about just how scary Caucasian people are. And I was like, well, if I put myself in a white person's shoes, I would be scared too all the time. I would be fearful of black people. And I was like, because I was like, that's literally to me like if I beat my girlfriend up every day, like just beat her down every day. And then I just slept next to her. It's like, how could you sleep well if you knew what you did to somebody was just heinous? How could you sleep comfortably next to them? Because at some point in time, you're expecting them to do you harm when you rested, and you know what you would do if you were the person being beat because you've already shown how you are. So I think that plays in a lot of their heads. Like at some point in time, they're gonna be like, "Fuck this," and it's gonna be a wrap for us. So that's what I mean by gremlin-like. Cause
Mm-hmm.
all it takes is that one, that one splash of water. shit went left real fast. So
Oh man. Yeah.
I love this. I love this. This is what I live for. To have conversations and share these moments. That's all we got. That's all we got.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want you to know that I'm proud to know, I'm delighted to know that you're in the world having these conversations, doing your comedy, doing the social commentary. Because of you and what you engage in, people are going to see things in a new light. I've only talked to you for an hour and a half. And I kid you not, they're like three different things that I see in a different way. There's a deepening in my understanding of things that I knew. I'm just guessing that if this one-on-one conversation between you and I can do that for me, that's powerful. You are a powerful man.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
it warms my heart to know that you're out in the world sharing how you see things and your knowledge, changing the evolution of our race, our nation, and our world. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for listening. As you can hear, you do not want to miss any of these brothers. Make sure you subscribe. You can find more at our website, 365brothers.com, 365brothers.com. This is Rock and Shine. To listen is to love.